pain often opens the door to purpose. That pain you felt when someone walked away, when they betrayed you, when they left you carrying the weight of confusion, anger, and heartbreak. It wasn't random, it wasn't meaningless. In the moment, it felt like everything was crumbling. Your heart felt heavy, your mind overwhelmed, and your soul questioned its own worth. But pain, in its rawest form, is one of life's greatest teachers. It has a way of stripping away illusions. It reveals what's real, what's fake, and what no longer serves the person you're becoming. When someone hurts you, especially someone close, someone you trusted, the shock goes deeper than just the act itself. It challenges your identity. It forces you to sit in silence with yourself and ask questions you might have never dared to ask. Why did this happen? What does this mean about me? What did I miss? But what we often don't realize in that moment is that the pain is pushing us. Pushing us toward discovery, toward boundaries, toward strength we didn't know we had. The pain pulls things out of us that comfort never could. Comfort keeps us in place. Pain moves us forward, that heartbreak. It forced you to rediscover who you are without the validation of another. That betrayal, it taught you to trust your intuition, to see red flags for what they are, and not for what you hoped they could be. The loneliness that followed, it carved out space for something greater to fill. You see, purpose isn't always born in moments of clarity or joy. More often, it's born in the dark. It's born when you're curled up in bed with tears in your eyes, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. It's in those exact moments that something starts to form beneath the surface. A seed planted in pain, watered by reflection, and nurtured by resilience. People return after hurting you for many reasons, some out of guilt, some out of habit, some because they see your value now that you've reclaimed it. But before you even decide how to respond to them, understand this. The pain they caused may have been the very catalyst for the awakening you needed. It's hard to see it at first, but there's something sacred in the breaking. Not because you deserve to be hurt, but because your healing revealed a version of you that the world desperately needed. A version that's wiser, more grounded, more intentional. Pain introduces you to power. It removes the need for approval. It exposes what matters. It forces you to slow down, to question your patterns, to stop outsourcing your worth. And once you've done that, once you've sat in the fire and not let it consume you, you come out changed. Not colder, but clearer. Not harder, but stronger. Pain doesn't just burn. It refines. It takes you through the valley not to leave you there, but to prepare you for the mountaintop. The purpose that begins to emerge after pain isn't just about proving someone wrong. It's about finally stepping into the truth of who you are. Their return is not always about love. Sometimes it's about ego. When someone comes back after causing you pain, it can feel confusing. The heart wants to believe it's love, that they missed you, that they've changed, that their absence showed them your worth, and sometimes, yes, that may be true. But other times, and more often than we'd like to admit, their return isn't rooted in love, it's rooted in their own ego. Ego hates to lose. Ego hates to be forgotten. Ego can't stand to see you do well without them. The very same person who walked away, who took your kindness for granted, who wounded you with words, distance, silence. They might return not because they finally see your soul, but because they can't handle the fact that you healed without them. Your glow bothers them. Your peace unsettles them. Your ability to move forward shakes the image they held of you. The one where you stayed small, stayed waiting, stayed broken. Ego doesn't apologize sincerely. Ego doesn't grow. Ego returns because it needs to reclaim something, not restore something. It's not about connection, it's about control. When they see you rising, when they see you smiling, laughing, rebuilding, They start to wonder, how could they be okay without me? That question isn't driven by love. That question is driven by pride, and pride will disguise itself as affection just to pull you back into a cycle. You have to understand that some people don't miss you, they miss the version of themselves they were when they had power over you. They miss the comfort of being able to come and go. They miss the role they used to play in your life, and when that role is gone, when they see someone else supporting you, or worse, when they see you supporting yourself, that absence hits their ego like a storm. It's not your essence they crave, it's their old sense of importance. The moment you begin to grow, evolve, and prioritize your own well-being, the dynamics shift. You become less predictable, less accessible, less malleable to their moods and needs, and that's when the ego feels threatened. That's when it knocks at your door, not with flowers and truth, but with a disguised fear of losing the access they once took for granted. It's easy to mistake ego for effort, to think their return is a sign of fate, of destiny, of unfinished business. But you have to look beyond the surface, listen to their actions, not just their words. Has growth truly occurred, or is it just a performance to regain relevance? Is this about mutual healing, or about them soothing their pride? Love takes responsibility. Love transforms. Love comes back with humility, with change, with a willingness to rebuild what was broken with care. Ego comes back with urgency, confusion, and expectation. It doesn't ask, how can I make this right? It demands, why did you move on without me? You are not obligated to reopen closed chapters. Just because someone returns, just because they show up with apologies or explanations, doesn't mean you owe them anything. Not your time, not your energy, not your heart. The story may have ended for a reason, and not every return is a sign to begin again. Closure doesn't always need a conversation, and healing doesn't always need a reunion. Sometimes your growth lives in your silence. Sometimes peace is preserved in the decision not to revisit what once hurt you. We live in a world where people confuse access with entitlement. They believe that because they once knew you, once loved you, once laughed with you, once had a place in your life, they'll always have that door open. But healing teaches you boundaries. It teaches you to protect the progress you've made. When you've cried those tears, learned those lessons, and finally found clarity, you realize that not every story needs a sequel. Some stories are powerful because they ended. The truth is, people can return with the same behavior in a new disguise. They might sound sweeter, look better, say the right things, but if the core has not changed, the result won't either. It's easy to fall for the familiar. It's tempting to romanticize the past when it knocks on your door. But maturity means asking yourself, do I want to relive this lesson, or have I already learned it? Choosing not to reopen a chapter is not bitterness, it's wisdom. It means you've understood the cost of staying in cycles. It means you've seen what it did to your mental peace, your self-esteem, your spirit. You remember how many nights you stayed awake replaying conversations, how many times you questioned your worth, how many times you forgave without seeing change. And now that you've come this far, you get to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over nostalgia. Some people will call you cold for moving on. They'll say you've changed, and they're right, you have. You've grown into someone who no longer accepts breadcrumbs in the name of connection. Someone who doesn't confuse history with destiny. You've realized that love is not proven by how many chances you give, but by how well you honor your own healing. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to leave behind dynamics that drained you. You are allowed to say, no, thank you. even when they come back with apologies. Closure isn't always a dialogue. Sometimes closure is found in your decision not to go backwards, in the quiet strength of not re-engaging, in the grace of wishing someone well from a distance. When you don't reopen closed chapters, you give yourself the space to write new ones filled with alignment, honesty, and peace. You begin to make room for people who meet you where you are, not where you used to be. The past can be acknowledged, respected, even appreciated for the role it played in shaping you, but it does not need to be relived to be honored. Forgiveness is strength, not submission. It takes an incredible amount of inner power to look at someone who hurt you, someone who disappointed you, someone who made you question your worth, and still choose to release the bitterness. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, and it is not permission for someone to re-enter your life unchecked. It's not pretending the pain didn't happen, and it's not forgetting. It's a conscious choice to no longer let that pain control you. It's taking back the energy that resentment tried to steal and using it to build something better inside of you. Many people believe that forgiving means excusing the behavior, that by forgiving, you're somehow saying it was okay. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Forgiveness doesn't mean you accept what happened. It means you accept that it did happen, and you're no longer willing to carry the weight of it every day. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for your own freedom, your own healing, your own peace of mind. When someone returns after hurting you, the idea of forgiveness can feel complicated. You might ask yourself, if I forgive, does that mean I have to let them back in? The answer is no. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two entirely different things. You can forgive someone and still maintain distance. You can forgive and still say no to their return. Forgiveness is about freeing your heart, not reopening your door. It's the difference between healing and forgetting. The strongest people are the ones who choose to release hate when they have every right to hold on to it, not because they're soft, but because they've realized that holding on only holds them back. Anger begins to decay the soul when it overstays its purpose. It can fuel you for a while, yes, but eventually it poisons the well. Forgiveness is the cleanse. It's the act of looking at the wound, acknowledging its depth, and saying, "This no longer defines me." People often mistake silence for weakness, distance for avoidance, and forgiveness for surrender. But real strength is quiet. It doesn't always announce itself. It simply lets go of what no longer belongs. When you forgive, you're not letting them off the hook. You're letting yourself off the hook. You're no longer tied to their choices, their guilt, their journey. You choose to walk forward without dragging the weight of their actions behind you. Forgiveness is not for those who don't deserve it. It's for those who do, and you deserve peace. You deserve a clear mind and a full heart. You deserve mornings that aren't haunted by yesterday. And the moment you realize that forgiveness is a power move, not a passive one, everything begins to shift. The control returns to you. The strength multiplies within you. You begin to live above the pain instead of inside it. You begin to own your story instead of reliving its worst chapters. Growth makes you outgrow those who once broke you. When you start to heal, when you truly begin the journey of becoming whole again, something powerful happens. You begin to see clearly. You see patterns you once called love. You see manipulation you once called care. You see silence that once made you anxious and realize it was never your burden to fix. Growth doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes how you see yourself. And in that new vision, some people no longer fit. Not because you hate them, but because you've evolved beyond the version of yourself that tolerated them. The truth is, Some connections were formed when you were operating from a place of pain, from insecurity, from loneliness. You weren't always choosing from your healed self. You were choosing from survival, from what felt familiar, from what fed your wounds instead of your worth. But as you grow, your taste in relationships begins to shift. What used to excite you now exhausts you. What you used to chase now feels beneath your energy, and what once broke you, it no longer even has access to you. People often wonder why those who once meant the world to them now feel distant, unnecessary, or even draining. It's not that love disappears, it's that alignment does. You're no longer on the same frequency. You've done the inner work. You've faced your shadows. You've cried your tears in silence and stood up when no one was watching. That kind of growth changes the way you allow yourself to be treated. It puts a demand on your space, one that only those with similar growth can respect. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you didn't love them. It doesn't mean they didn't matter. It means that the chapter they belonged to is over. It means that you no longer need to learn that same lesson over and over again. It means you've learned to speak to yourself with the compassion they couldn't give. It means you've finally stepped into the version of yourself who doesn't beg for clarity, who doesn't shrink for connection, who doesn't bend just to keep someone comfortable. Growth makes you crave depth. Honesty, reciprocity. You no longer have room for people who only show up when it's convenient. You no longer invest in words unbacked by action. You begin to honor your own time, energy, and heart like never before. And that creates a natural separation between who you were and who you are now. The person who broke you might return, but they're coming back to a place that doesn't exist anymore. The old you welcomed them with open arms. The new you remembers the cost. This kind of growth can feel lonely at first. Letting go of what once felt like home is never easy, but eventually you realize the emptiness they leave behind is not a loss, it's space. Space for real connection, space for purpose, space for the kind of love and respect that aligns with who you've become. Growth doesn't just change your standards. It transforms your entire capacity for self-respect. Closure doesn't always come with an apology. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most walk away without ever looking back. They leave without explanation, without remorse, without acknowledgement of the chaos they left behind, and you're left holding the pieces, waiting for a moment that may never come. You replay conversations, overthink every word, question every action, trying to find where it all went wrong. You wait for closure like it's a key to healing, believing that if they would just say sorry, if they would just admit what they did, then you could finally move on. But healing doesn't depend on their awareness. It depends on your decision. Waiting for someone to make it right keeps you tied to the moment they made it wrong. You stay stuck in a loop, hoping that clarity will arrive from the same place that confusion was born. But the truth is, some people will never see the damage they've done because that would require them to confront parts of themselves they're not ready to face. It's easier for them to pretend nothing happened. Easier to rewrite history, easier to stay distant, and while they run from the wreckage, you're left rebuilding in silence. But in that silence, something powerful begins to grow: self-trust, self-worth, self-awareness. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself. It's the decision to stop chasing validation from the one who broke you. It's the choice to rewrite your own narrative, one where you are not the victim of someone else's silence, but the author of your own healing. You learn to sit with the unanswered questions and still move forward. You stop needing them to explain why they couldn't love you the right way. You stop needing them to tell you that you mattered, because eventually you start to believe that you do, even without their confirmation. People think closure is a conversation, a final meeting, a moment of truth. But sometimes closure is a quiet moment alone when you decide to forgive someone who never said sorry. It's when you stop rereading the last message, stop waiting for the phone to ring, stop hoping they'll realize what they lost. It's when you close the chapter for your own sanity, not because the ending made sense, but because you're ready to write something new. Sometimes closure looks like accepting that the apology may never come, that the story may never have the explanation you wanted, that the justice you crave may not arrive in the form you imagined. But in that acceptance, there's peace. There's freedom in no longer giving someone else the power to determine when you heal. You realize that your healing is your responsibility, that your peace is too precious to be held hostage by someone else's absence. When someone returns after hurting you, they may or may not bring closure. They may come with the same excuses, the same energy, the same avoidance, or they may come with remorse, but too late to matter. And in either case, the growth lies in knowing that you no longer need their apology to be at peace with your past. Absolutely. Here's a powerful and heartfelt 400-word conclusion to wrap up your entire motivational speech on why they return after hurting you. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's regret. Maybe it's ego. Maybe they see your light now that you've stopped dimming it for them. But the truth is, it doesn't matter why they come back. What matters is who you've become since they left. What matters is the healing you've done in their absence, the lessons you've learned in the silence, the strength you've gained through the storm. You see, the return of someone who once broke you is not always a second chance at love. It's a final chance at clarity. It's life offering you a mirror, showing you how far you've come, how much you've grown. It's a test, not of their sincerity, but of your self-worth. Because when you've truly healed, you no longer feel flattered by someone's return. You feel empowered by your ability to choose whether or not they still deserve a place in your story. You are not weak for forgiving. You are not cold for walking away. You are not heartless for setting boundaries. You are not bitter for choosing peace over closure. You are someone who has learned that healing is not about going back to what broke you. It's about building something better from the pieces. And maybe they did come back. Maybe they said all the right things, but the version of you that once would have begged for their presence now understands the value of their absence. That is growth. That is healing. That is purpose being born from pain. So don't be afraid when the past knocks on your door. Don't be confused when it arrives wrapped in regret, dressed in nostalgia. Just remember this: you are allowed to let the door stay closed. You are allowed to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You are allowed to choose you even if they don't understand, because in the end, it was never about why they returned. It's about who you became when they were gone. And that version of you, the healed, whole, powerful you, isn't waiting for someone to complete them anymore. That version knows the comeback wasn't theirs.